Oh, baby! And we're not back. This is actually before the episode. I'm your host, Matt Wayman. I've got some news to share with the listeners out there. We are actually, unfortunately, going on a hiatus for a bit. I am starting law school, and I can barely keep up already, so we're going to go on a hiatus for a bit. I'm going to try to upload some episodes if I can get the time to record them. I know that my uploads recently have been a little sporadic, and I apologize for that. But before we do go on hiatus, I got this part 1 with comedian Zack Stovall. We got his part 2 coming next week. And we also got some special treats. So after this episode, I am playing the theme song from the band Sand out of New Orleans. I'm going to play that in its entirety after this episode. So stay tuned for that. And we also are going to have a very special treat. 2 weeks from now, I've got a podcast that I've been working on, and I'm going to release the first episode of that to you guys as well. So we still got some good stuff coming, but unfortunately we are going on a hiatus for a bit. So thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you all soon. Oh baby, everybody, and we're back. Welcome back to Words with Wayman. I'm your host, as always, Matt Wayman. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to hop right into it, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. He does improv. He does characters. He does stand-up. He writes. Zack Stovall, thank you so much for coming out.
Hi.
You just got back from Europe. You had a little vacay over there. How was that?
I did. It was awesome. We had a friend who got married in Sweden, so of course we decided, like all Americans, we need to go to all of the Europe. You're over there.
Did you
Why
have
not?
a buffet of countries?
Just a buffet. Yeah, we went to Amsterdam, Berlin, Copenhagen, and then a couple towns in
Berlin,
Sweden.
I hear, is a fun town I've never been to.
Yeah,
Did you like it?
It was. It's not like the sort of the beer halls and Lederhosen thing you're expecting. It's more of like this is the time on Sprockets while we dance. Like,
that's what I think. I hear it's just a bunch of weirdos.
Yeah. So it was cool though. We had a food tour.
Nice.
We had this little British gal showing us around, and she told us like all about these like different like restaurants and neighborhoods and cool stuff. So we made the most of that.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, ate a lot of Vietnamese food.
Really?
So, Berlin Wall. It's the height of the
came down. Let's get some pho
of the Cold War. Berlin.
Yeah.
The Soviet Berlin on the east, and then the free west.
You know what they didn't talk about? The Vietnamese.
The Vietnamese, who were also segregated in that way, and so both sides were selling like real estate and deals to Vietnam, and so there was just this huge influx in the late 70s and 80s of Vietnamese culture, and the Vietnamese make some dank burgers. They were
burgers.
I had the best burger of my life.
Is there just the same?
Just
had
the
spices.
It just had spices. It tasted like Vietnamese like coleslaw on top of a delicious
awesome
pork burger.
Instead of beef.
Yeah.
Better fat content.
So fat.
That sounds great.
Fat with a pH, and I don't mean
Huh?
that. I don't mean that in like a pretty hot and tempting. I just mean it in the Vietnamese colloquial.
Yeah, like the pho.
Like pho.
That's awesome. I worked at a Vietnamese restaurant for years, and it was the best part. It was just free food all day.
Free pho.
Just free pho, free banh mi's all the time.
Oh,
I just couldn't eat enough of it still, and I ate it all the time.
Getting my banh belly.
God, they're so cheap, too. The cheapest.
Yeah.
Free down there. Well, that's awesome. So you had a good time. How long were you over there for?
We were over there for like a little over a week. My wife and I went up to New York for a couple days, caught some shows.
You did it all.
We only had to fly out of there.
Mm-hmm.
We actually missed our flight on the way out. There was a wreck in the Lincoln Tunnel,
so
it took us 3 hours to get there from.
They reschedule it for free?
Yeah. Well, there was another flight leaving it in 3 hours after that, and it actually got us in like only like 2 hours later than we were supposed to be. So it was fine. Yeah. They were having like a really tough time, so they were just kind of handing out free shit to everybody.
We don't want to be here either. This is rough.
No, they were. So we did that. We landed in Amsterdam, stayed on a houseboat.
Yeah.
If you're looking up Airbnbs, Dawn, Daan, has a houseboat.
Exactly how you think to spell it.
Exactly. Dawn has a houseboat.
Houseboat life. I've always wondered about it.
Yeah.
You were like Keanu Reeves from The Replacements.
I was, except better looking.
Yeah.
And
Take that, John Wick.
No, it was just that was kind of the most embarrassing part because, like, of course, it had like this little like terrace deck up top, and little tour boats would go by.
And you're just shirtless.
And I'm shirtless, drinking, and dancing.
They probably thought you were like a native, though.
Maybe.
You look a touch European.
Yeah, a touch European. If it weren't for the the
American flag
the American flag, the American flag swim trunks that I had pulled up to my nipples. So. That was sort of a dead giveaway.
Is that a flag? Oh, God, that's not a flag.
No,
what is happening over there?
Oh, no.
That's exciting. Well, I'm glad you're back and you made it back safe.
Thank you.
So like I said when I introed it, you do a lot of stuff. How did you get into? What'd you do first? Stand up, improv,
improv. So when I first moved up to St. Louis,
from where?
From Little Rock,
Cool.
Arkansas. My wife. She was working for the Riverfront Times, and they just had a profile on
local newspaper, I should say.
Local rag.
Local rag. That's what I should have gone with.
They did a profile on a guy named Bill Cott, who was an old Second City guy who had been on the Dana Carvey show, and he had a school called the Improv Trick, which is now defunct.
Probably because of the name. It sounds kind of sexually aggressive. No.
Yeah. It's the improv sexual harassment was what we were going for. It starts out as a seminar, and the bit just keeps going throughout the show.
Until the business is shut down.
Until it shutters. No, he's in L.A. doing stuff. But
that's awesome.
I ended up joining a team with Ryan Dalton, who's still
local stand-up.
Melanie Penn, who works for she helps run the improv shop.
Cool.
Joe Firestone, who's doing really well in New York. And another guy, Mark, who just lives on a boat, I think, out in the Pacific Northwest.
They can't all go on to fame. There's always one person in improv troupe that lives on a boat.
Just lives on a boat. I caught a little bit of the Mark life in Amsterdam. It was great. And then, but once we all kind of went our separate ways after that, we probably played together for like 9 months, a year, and did a lot of shows. I felt like we were doing really good work. It felt really good. And then when we disbanded, everybody kind of. Mark and Ryan went to Second City to study. Joe moved to New York.
Yeah.
And then I really didn't feel that comfort with anybody. Melanie was able to jump in. Because she's wonderful and great. Was able to jump in with a bunch of different teams really quickly. Yeah. But I didn't feel that as much. So I was like, well, I'm going to try stand-up. And
it takes a while to get like on the same group mind and to just be able to trust people.
Yeah. Well, it does. Especially with like, it's all about like trust and listening and opening yourself. And I still didn't know that many people as well as I like kind of probably would have wanted to, or in my head it was like, oh, I felt really close to these people, but I could have gotten close with other people. But I decided to try stand up. I started actually opening the second act of an improv show.
Cool.
An improv jam. They used to
That's
do,
a good way to
they used
start
to do
it.
shows at Lemons, the old dive bar on Gravois.
Okay.
That just reopened as like a family friendly place.
It's not going to go
like,
for well.
Yeah, well. It was pretty sure there were hobos sneaking in, living upstairs for like at least a good month or two.
Yeah.
But there would be improv shows there, and I would open the second act with stand-up, which was really tough because improv crowds go to see people do things and not see people say things. So I really had to, and my style is a lot more like, I won't say dramatic, but like theatrical. There's a lot more act outs and kind of like loud, silly, dumb bits, noises, sounds, and weird faces and stuff like that. So it probably like complimented that crowd pretty well, but it was also like, okay, well, no, you gotta show us something. So that's kind of where I got started doing stand up. From there, I took some time off to do some writing and drawing and do some stuff like that, which was pretty good. And then
you published a book, right?
Yeah, we got.
How did that kind of come about?
Well, I was drawing cartoons every day.
Nice. Just one a day or like several a day?
Yeah, just kind of doing like daily stuff, really to kind of keep my mind sane at work.
I think it's great to like at least do. You have to do at least something repetitive like that every day.
Yeah, so I would do like just basically like one thing, and I don't draw very well. I draw just well enough to convey a joke, but I put up a couple like puns, a couple like dumb little like sketches like in the margins and put them up, and people liked them, so I just kept doing them. And then I had a side series. I was doing of just a shitload of inanimate objects wearing tuxedos. That for some reason, like I drew a fancy vacuum. One of the things I do a lot in my like drawings are like sort of like comparisons that are very absurd comparisons. Like I'll draw like a French fry I'll draw a very French fry, which is the same French fry but like with a very thin mustache,
Yeah.
a beret, and a baguette, and a glass of wine, and
Yeah.
a hand-rolled cigarette. And then so that's a very French fry. And then I'll have a freedom fry, and it's a French fry wearing like NASCAR and
Nice.
like, don't tread on me stuff.
Yeah.
So I had like a vacuum, and then I had a fancy vacuum, and it was just a vacuum wearing a tuxedo.
Yeah, and it
So-
caught on.
So I did 150 of those. I just did a ton of them just because it just made me laugh. It was it was what I refer to as inescapably stupid. And then
It's about us. People think a lot of time the performance is about them or about like, giving them something, and that's true, but it's mainly about us.
It's so stupid. And then so there was this creative gathering called Pachakacha. It's like you get 20 slides and 20 seconds per slide. And they were like, "Hey, cool." So they were like, a friend of mine was one of the people who ran it, a coworker, and she was like, "Oh, you should do like some cartoons. Like, do you have any specific like series?" I was like, "Well, I'm working on this thing."
You got this one.
And they were like, "Cool, great. It's a little bit serious. People really, are really passionate about their art and their creativity. So really try to take it seriously and don't sell anything. Just don't sell like anything. Don't try to, people hate pitches. This isn't Shark Tank. We're not doing it for the love of money. We're doing it for the love of creativity." So I come in wearing a tuxedo with like a fake book cover, being very, very silly, saying that the secret to all of life's happiness is putting inanimate objects in tuxedo. And here's how, buy my book. And it was so like there were like 400 people like there. It was like
That's
the
awesome.
Mad Art Gallery was like crowded. Two people ahead of me, this guy told this literally like heartbreaking, crushing, beautiful speech about the link between creativity and mental illness, and he was like talking about like how he had like maybe like tried to kill himself and how it brought about the most creative like spell of his life. And he was
keep
like,
it going for that guy. Real bummer, huh?
standing O through their tears.
Oh,
like, he
God.
crushed. Luckily, there was some like gal who was like really peppy. Like she was like, "Hey, we're going to talk about urban revitalization. Here it comes." And she did her like 6 minutes and 40 seconds, 20 slides, and everybody's like, "Yeah, good."
Yeah,
and
we
then
respect
I came
you.
on, and it was from like a stand-up perspective. It crushed because they
Nice.
weren't expecting anything.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything like that was like really that like funny. There was like some dude who like he drove like homemade tofu around. He kind of had some jokes in his, but there wasn't like anybody who did like a straight up like character. Like my Fancy Things character is like this very fancy man who's like talking about all the ways in which you could better your life by putting your microphone into a tuxedo. Like it's just,
Yeah.
and then he keeps going. And so I have a show around that.
Yeah.
I sell the book there. And
Nice. Do you
Yeah.
do it? Where's that show at? The
it's been at Blank Space, and now
Okay.
it's at the Improv Shop.
Yeah,
We got our
it-
first one August 24th, and we'll do it the fourth Thursday of every month.
Nice. This will be out before that, so people can hear about it.
Oh yeah!
Is that
Talk
the only
about that
show?
Marketing.
Get
Yeah.
those people to your show. Is that the only one you're running right now?
Yeah,
I know you ran it some
yeah,
more
I
in
mean
the
that's
past.
kind of the only one I'm like producing. Sketchpad
Nice.
we're still doing.
Yeah. Okay.
So the sketch, Jason Flam and I help, and some other people help produce this sketch show.
Yeah.
We're having our third anniversary show on August 12th. I
Heck
think I'll be
yeah.
able to jump in on that. I might be out of town, but
Nice.
I'm trying to make sure we get back for that. That'll be at the Monocle, and we've been doing that. We did it monthly for the first like 2.5 years.
Whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah, and Jason's process is amazing. He
Yeah.
basically comes in, and you can come in at any level, and you can come in with an idea that's like fully formed and typed out, and all you need to do is have actors and block it. You just have the seeds of an idea.
Yeah.
Or if you've got the front end, like one of my favorite sketches, somebody came in and was like, "Hey man, my wife got really mad at me because I don't know how to fold fitted sheets," and it was like a really big fight. But after it was done, we laughed about how earnest this fight was, so I just need an ending. Like, so we cobbled together like this like bit where we have like a sketch about like doing like a YouTube tutorial about how to like fold a fitted sheet.
Nice,
It's
so
not
your wife
actually
is
about
gonna-
the fitted sheet. It's about like this marriage falling apart.
Whoa.
So like there are all these like cool processes, and it doesn't take much to get involved with like
That's
that
a
stuff.
great,
And,
yeah.
lately we've been doing this thing where we have like this big collective brainstorm.
Nice.
So like the shows have like themes around them. Like we
That's
did one
really
about
cool.
like love and history, and And I think this one's just going to be a review show, sort of our best of the best.
That sounds like the best. Yeah.
So it should be pretty good.
Take all the heavy hitters.
Yeah.
That sounds like a cool process because collaboration is can be really pretty, but it also can be hard sometimes.
Well, for like stand-ups especially, like a lot of times you can have a joke that might not play as well when it's one dude talking about it.
Yeah.
Or one lady talking about it. I don't want to be exclusive.
No, absolutely.
But like, you know, you're kind of like, oh, I'd like to see like that, like actually like act it out, and so that's a good place to kind of like put some of your different jokes sometimes.
Yeah, something that may not work on stage would crush.
Yeah, and it does pretty well there. You know, just a different way to like think about like what, you know, think about your jokes and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
We go pretty quick on these episodes before we get out of here. Last question. I want to ask you if you had any advice for somebody that's like thinking about starting stand-up. Like you said, like your wife was just like, "Hey, go do this thing."
Yeah, that was which
is nice.
My tether was sort of just a get out of the house and like
seriously
go meet people because I didn't know anybody when I moved
My
here.
first class, I was really nervous, and I'd done stand-up before. Like I was really scared and stuff, and it takes a lot to go to that first improv class. I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, if you're in St. Louis, definitely stop by the improv shop because that'll always teach you to think on your feet.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the big thing for me is just making sure that you're always doing something. I know that I would hit these like lulls where, okay, so I'm doing improv, and then my team breaks up. So, oh, what am I going to do now? Oh,
yeah.
okay, so I'll try stand up. Then I'll hit it really hard. Maybe hit a plateau or something where like, oh, I don't really know what I'm going. Oh, I'll find writing, and it always seemed like I was always trying to like escape to something else. When really it was just a matter of finding an outlet and knowing I do all these like really weird different things, and it wasn't a matter of what I was doing, just that I was doing.
Yeah, it's all from the one creative spot.
Yeah, and so you kind of get this itch to where you're like, oh, I need to really be doing something, but what is it that I want to do? And you can get bogged down in thinking of like the execution when really it's just about like, no, it's not the execution of like the form, it's just about executing. It's just go out and do. If you want to go do stand up, like just go do stand up.
Do it a million times before you get good at it.
No, I mean, you're not gonna be great at it. You're just gonna need to do it.
Yeah, it's really one of those things where you got to get your reps in and kind of put the time in.
If you want to like just like draw or like do like a comic, just draw a shitload of comics. If you want to do improv, go take a class because they're always looking for people to jump in. That's how you get started. If you like it and you want to keep being good at it, you obviously like focus and hone your skills, but just basically the do of it is a big hurdle for a lot of people.
Short for delusional.
Yes.
You have to be delusional.
Delusional.
We already plugged some of your shows. Where else can everybody find your stuff on the interwebs right now?
Twitter at ZSTOV as in Victor ALL. Facebook, I think you can see some cartoons. Fancy Things, just look it up on Facebook. Fancy Things by Zack with a K, Stovall, all one word on Facebook. You'll be able to see like our events, and we'll do some giveaways and stuff like that to retain for engagement.
Fancy things, everybody. You heard it here first. If you want to be fancy, check all that out. You're already fancy in my book for checking out this podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. Support us on the interwebs, Facebook, Twitter, at Words with Wayman. Thank you so much all for listening out there, and we'll see you all soon.
Just let me in. I'll set fire to the soul of sin. The stars in the heaven so they sing to shine on. Rapture. Ah, suck it. Rapture. Here I go. To sleep again. Can't stand your home. The streets can be vicious obstacles full of drug lust. I'll do what I can, I'll do what I must. I'll make it worth your time. My heart and soul, but my dreams are mine. The butterfly dies in my mind. Darkness sleeps in my soul. do.